Dragon Ball isn't just a story about heroes becoming stronger. From the original Dragon Ball all the way to Dragon Ball Super, it's also a story about conflict. Conflict that's not only physical, but philosophical. Every villain Goku and his friends face is more than a mere obstacle. They are carriers of a worldview, a set of beliefs that define their actions and, in many ways, reflect the challenges of the universe itself. At first glance, villains like King Piccolo, Frieza, Cell, Majin Buu, or even Moro might seem like very different threats. Some seek domination, others destruction, and a few simply act out of survival or pride. But if we examine their motivations carefully, a pattern emerges. Beyond the flashy battles and world-ending schemes, Dragon Ball's antagonists often share a deeper philosophy, a lens through which they perceive the universe and their place within it. This hidden philosophy shapes not only their choices, but also the narrative itself. It's why certain villains feel more compelling, more memorable, or more terrifying than others. It is also why Dragon Ball remains a story that resonates decades after its creation. The series isn't just about fighting. It obsesses about the ideals and beliefs that drive conflict. In this video, we're going to peel back the layers of Dragon Ball's villains, examining the common philosophies that connect them all. From the tyrannical control of Frieza to the chaotic freedom of Majin Buu, from the pride of Vegeta's rivals to the survival-driven logic of Cell and Moro, every villain represents a piece of a philosophical puzzle. By the end, you'll see that Dragon Ball's villains are more than villains. They are reflections of universal truths about power, morality, and the struggle between order and chaos. And once you understand this hidden thread, you'll never look at a Dragon Ball fight the same way again. On the surface, Dragon Ball villains often appear straightforward. They want power, destruction, or revenge, and Goku and the heroes must stop them. King Piccolo seeks to dominate the world. Frieza wants to rule the universe. Cell desires perfection. Majin Buu craves chaos. And yet, if we only see them this way, we're missing the deeper thread that connects them all. Most Dragon Ball villains are defined not just by ambition or hatred, but by a philosophy, a lens through which they view the world. This philosophy dictates not only their actions, but also their interactions with heroes and the story's trajectory. It's why certain villains feel so iconic and enduring. They are more than just obstacles. They are living embodiments of ideas. Take Frieza, for instance. At first glance, he is the classic tyrant, ruthless, merciless, and obsessed with domination. But philosophically, Frieza represents absolute control. He views the universe as a strict hierarchy, where strength determines worth and dissent is punishable by death. Frieza's cruelty isn't random, it's an extension of his worldview. To him, power is not only a tool, but the natural order of existence. Compare this to Cell, who operates under a different philosophical paradigm. Cell is obsessed with perfection and evolution. His world is one where only the fittest survive, and every action is geared towards self-improvement and adaptation. Whereas Frieza's philosophy is rooted in hierarchy and fear, Cell's revolves around evolution and the relentless pursuit of one's potential. Even seemingly chaotic villains like Majin Buu have their own philosophy. Buu's destruction and indulgence might appear mindless, but in a way he embodies absolute freedom, the rejection of rules, morality, and societal constraints. He is the ultimate anarchist, a force of nature who challenges the universe's order simply by existing. By examining these patterns, we see that Dragon Ball villains are not arbitrary creations. They reflect recurring themes: control versus freedom, pride versus humility, survival versus stagnation, that run through the series. Their philosophies often mirror, contrast, or challenge the values of the heroes, creating narrative tension that goes beyond mere fighting. Understanding this is key to appreciating Dragon Ball on a deeper level. Beyond mere fighting. Understanding this is key to appreciating Dragon Ball on a deeper level. The villains aren't just there to make Goku look strong. They are manifestations of conflicting worldviews, moral questions, and cosmic principles. And it is this philosophical foundation that makes their confrontations so compelling, resonant, and timeless. To better understand the secret philosophy behind Dragon Ball's villains, we can group their motivations into 4 recurring pillars: order and control, freedom and anarchy, pride and legacy, and survival and evolution. These pillars not only explain why villains act the way they do, but also reveal the deeper thematic threads that tie the series together. 1. Order and control. Villains like Frieza and Zamasu fall into this category. They crave absolute control and impose strict hierarchies on the universe. Frieza believes in a rigid order where strength dictates value, and any resistance is met with annihilation. Zamasu, on the other hand, seeks a morally pure universe by erasing mortals entirely. Both villains demonstrate how the pursuit of order can become destructive when combined with pride and intolerance. They embody the idea that the desire to control reality itself is both a philosophical and moral flaw. 2. Freedom and anarchy. At the opposite end of the spectrum are villains like Majin Buu or Moro. They thrive on chaos, rejecting societal norms and moral constraints. Buu's impulsive indulgence and Moro's resource-driven survivalism exemplify a philosophy where freedom, unchecked and absolute, leads to unpredictable destruction. These villains remind us that the absence of structure is just as dangerous as its extreme enforcement, creating conflict not through ideology alone, but by challenging the very rules that heroes rely on. 3. Pride and legacy. Many villains, particularly those tied to Saiyan heritage or personal rivalry, operate under the banner of pride. Vegeta's early antagonists, Broly and Goku Black, exemplify a worldview where personal achievement, dominance, and legacy define one's value. Their philosophy centers on the belief that strength equates to worth, and that surpassing others is the ultimate goal. Pride-driven villains often blur the line between hero and villain, as their motivations can mirror those of the protagonists in different circumstances. 4. Survival and evolution. Finally, some villains are guided by a pragmatic, almost Darwinian philosophy. Cell, and to a degree Moro, pursue perfection and adaptation as a means of survival. They act according to the principle that only the strongest endure, shaping their choices and strategies around continual evolution. Unlike the other pillars, this philosophy isn't necessarily malicious in intention. It's neutral, even natural, highlighting that villainy can sometimes stem from perspective rather than malevolence. By categorizing Dragon Ball villains into these 4 philosophical pillars, we begin to see patterns that were previously hidden. Their conflicts with Goku and the heroes are not random. They are manifestations of opposing worldviews, each challenging the series' moral and thematic boundaries. These pillars form the foundation of Dragon Ball's storytelling, demonstrating that even in a franchise celebrated for action and spectacle, ideas, philosophical, ethical, and cosmic, drive the narrative as much as any fight. With the 4 philosophical pillars established, we can now examine the major Dragon Ball villains and see exactly how their actions and motivations align with these frameworks. By doing this, it becomes clear that their conflicts with the heroes are not just physical battles, they are ideological confrontations. 1. Order and control. Frieza and Zamasu. Frieza is the quintessential example of a villain driven by control. From his early appearances on planet Vegeta to the climactic battle on Namek, Frieza views the universe as a hierarchy that must be maintained at all costs. His cruelty is methodical. Entire planets are destroyed not out of anger, but because they challenge his order. Similarly, Zamasu in Dragon Ball Super embodies a twisted form of justice, believing that the eradication of mortals will create a perfect, orderly universe. Both villains highlight the dangers of rigid ideology. When control becomes obsession, empathy is lost, and destruction follows. 2. Freedom and anarchy. Majin Buu and Moro. Majin Buu's philosophy is pure chaos. Whether he is gorging on sweets, rampaging across the world, or absorbing foes, Buu acts without concern for rules or morality. Moro, meanwhile, takes freedom a step further with a survivalist mentality. He consumes planets to sustain his power, unconcerned with cosmic law. These villains remind us that the absence of order is as threatening as tyranny. Their actions force heroes to confront unpredictability, proving that chaos itself can be a philosophical challenge. 3. Pride and legacy, Vegeta, Broly, and Goku Black. Pride drives several of Dragon Ball's most memorable antagonists. Vegeta's early villainous form was fueled by Saiyan pride, seeking to assert his dominance and prove his superiority. Broly embodies the extreme of this principle, with power and rage amplified by both natural ability and personal vendetta. Goku Black adds a philosophical twist. His pride manifests through ideological superiority, believing his vision of a purified universe is inherently justified. Villains in this pillar often blur moral lines, making them fascinating because their motivations reflect aspects of the hero's own journeys. 4. Survival and evolution. Cell and Jiren Cell represents evolution as philosophy. His existence is defined by adaptation, and his obsession with perfection drives his every move. Moro in his later form shares similar traits. He is pragmatic, focused on survival and maximizing his potential. Jiren, although technically an antagonist in the Tournament of Power, operates under a philosophy of self-improvement and personal justice, emphasizing strength and endurance. These villains show that philosophy-driven antagonism can be neutral rather than malicious, creating conflict through perspective rather than pure evil. By analyzing Dragon Ball villains through these examples, we see that the series is structured not just around fights, but around ideas in conflict. Each antagonist embodies a distinct worldview, challenging heroes not only in combat but in ideology. Understanding these philosophical foundations transforms the way we perceive the series. It is as much about thought and belief as it is about punches and energy blasts. Now that we've analyzed the philosophical pillars and examined how individual villains embody them, it's time to explore the narrative impact of these ideas. Dragon Ball isn't just a series of fights. It has a story where ideology and belief systems shape events as much as physical strength. The villains' philosophies create tension, challenge the hero's growth, and define the moral and thematic fabric of the series. Take the contrast between Goku and Frieza. Goku represents adaptability, compassion, and a belief in potential. He often spares foes and sees the good in others. Frieza, however, embodies rigid control and hierarchy. Their conflict isn't only a physical struggle, it's a clash of philosophies, freedom and empathy versus domination and fear. This is why the battle on Namek resonates decades later. It's more than a fight, it's a confrontation of values. Similarly, Cell's evolution-based philosophy forces the heroes to confront limits, strategy, and growth. Gohan ES rise during the Cell games isn't just about surpassing strength. It's about embodying courage, potential, and moral responsibility. Villains like Cell show that the hero's development is often driven by ideological challenge as much as physical threat. Majin Buu illustrates another angle. Chaos and unrestrained freedom disrupt the established order, forcing characters like Goku, Vegeta, and Supreme Kai to work creatively and morally within a destabilized universe. Buu's philosophy challenges the idea that strength alone can solve every problem. Sometimes understanding, strategy, and restraint are just as important. Even in Dragon Ball Super, the philosophy-driven antagonists, Zamasu, Goku Black, Moro, serve the same purpose. Zamasu's obsession with divine justice and moral purity challenges the heroes to question ethics, mortality, and the limits of intervention. Moro's survivalist pragmatism forces characters to adapt to unprecedented challenges, demonstrating that intelligence and philosophy can be as dangerous as raw power. The philosophical depth of these villains also strengthens the narrative arcs. Every major saga isn't just about escalating power levels. It's about confronting and overcoming conflicting worldviews. Heroes grow not only in strength but in wisdom, moral reasoning, and understanding of the universe. Dragon Ball's villains are integral to this growth. They are the catalysts that push heroes beyond their limits, intellectually and morally. Ultimately, This narrative impact is what makes Dragon Ball more than just an action series. By embedding philosophical consistency into its antagonists, the series creates a multi-layered story where every battle carries emotional, moral, and ideological weight. Recognizing the philosophies of the villains enhances our appreciation of the series, revealing a depth that extends far beyond punches, energy blasts, and transformations. Why understanding? Villains changes the way we see Dragon Ball. After examining the philosophies of Dragon Ball's villains, from Frieza's desire for absolute control to Majin Buu's embodiment of chaos, it becomes clear that these characters are far more than mere obstacles for our heroes. They are living representations of ideas, each reflecting a unique worldview, moral stance, or cosmic principle. Understanding this adds a profound new layer to the series. When we watch Goku, Vegeta, and the other heroes confront these antagonists, we're not just seeing a battle of strength, we're witnessing an ideological clash. Heroes are challenged not only physically, but mentally and morally, forced to adapt to philosophies that oppose their own. Every villain, through their actions and motivations, shapes the hero's growth, their decisions, and even the overarching narrative. Recognizing the philosophical threads connecting Dragon Ball villains also deepens our appreciation of Toriyama's storytelling. It shows a careful balance between spectacle and substance. Each saga, each confrontation, is meticulously designed to explore different dimensions of power, morality, and consequence. Whether it's the tyranny of Frieza, the anarchic chaos of Buu, the pride of Broly, or the pragmatic survivalism of Cell and Moro, these villains push the story forward in ways that go far beyond fights. This perspective transforms how we engage with the series. Villains are no longer just the bad guys to defeat. They are essential mirrors of the universe, reflecting conflicts, philosophies, and challenges that resonate with our understanding of morality, justice, and ambition. They remind us that Dragon Ball's appeal lies not only in epic battles and dramatic transformations, but also in the ideas and principles that shape those battles. So, the next time you watch Dragon Ball, pay attention to the villains, study their actions, their motives, and the philosophies they embody. You'll start to see the series in a new light, one where every conflict carries meaning, every choice is informed by worldview, and every villain is a critical piece of the narrative puzzle. Dragon Ball isn't just a story about heroes, it's a story about ideas in conflict. And understanding the secret philosophy that connects every villain allows us to see the true genius behind Toriyama's creation.